They say Earth fell in 7 days. I wasn't there to see it. I was stationed on Eridion, a mining colony 30 light-years away, when the transmissions stopped. One moment we were receiving supply schedules and personnel rotations. The next, silence. Complete, absolute silence that stretched for 3 days before the Vorynth Empire's ships appeared in our sky. They didn't negotiate, didn't make demands. They simply came and everything changed. Within hours, our orbital defenses were slag. Within days, our cities were conquered. Within weeks, those of us who survived learned what it meant to be property of an empire that had been conquering worlds since before humanity learned to make fire. That was 18 months ago. My name is Captain Tarek Solen. I was an engineer before the Vorynth came, designing atmospheric processors and mining equipment. Now I'm a soldier in what's left of the human resistance. We call ourselves Ember Squad because that's what we are. The last burning remnants of a fire that's mostly ash. 7 of us, hiding in the ruins of what used to be Eridion's capital, planning something that will probably kill us all. But first, let me tell you what we're fighting against. The Vorynth don't hate us. That might be easier to bear if they did. They're simply efficient. They needed labor, resources, and industrial capacity. We had all 3, so they took them, took us. Rounded up survivors, sorted us like cargo, put us to work in their factories and foundries and mines. Those who resisted were killed. Those who couldn't work were killed. Those who could work were kept alive until they couldn't anymore, then replaced. Simple, efficient, monstrous. Above Eridion, in stable orbit, sits the Crown Foundry. That's what the Vorynth call it. We just call it the Beast. It's a massive, maybe 10 kilometers long, city-sized industrial complex where they manufacture weapons and ship components using raw materials stripped from our planet. And they use human labor to do it. Thousands of people work around the clock, assembling the very weapons the Vorynth use to conquer other worlds, building the chains that bind other species. We're going to destroy it. I'm in the safe house now, watching my squad prepare. It's not much of a safe house, just the basement of a collapsed building, hidden beneath rubble and scrap metal. But it's kept us alive this long, kept us hidden from Vorynth patrols and the human collaborators who hunted us for extra rations. Corporal Mira Chen is checking her rifle for the 10th time, movements mechanical and precise. She was a schoolteacher before the war. Now she's our best shot. Private Jace Okoye sits quietly in the corner, hands folded, lips moving in silent prayer. He was studying to be a doctor, became a demolitions expert instead, learned how to destroy rather than heal. Sergeant Kyle Voss sharpens a knife he'll probably never use, but the ritual calms him. A former security officer lost his entire family in the first week of occupation. Lieutenant Aria Vasquez reviews the mission plan on a battered datapad, her face illuminated by its pale glow. She was a career military, one of the few actual soldiers among us. She's kept us alive with her tactical knowledge, taught us how to think like fighters instead of desperate civilians. Tech specialist Rin Park works on the communications gear, always tinkering, always improving. They were programmers before and wrote code for entertainment systems. Now they hack Vorynth systems and forge access credentials. Private first-class Dev Anand cleans his gear methodically, each piece laid out with precision. He was a maintenance worker and knew every system in Eridion's infrastructure. That knowledge has saved us more times than I can count. 7 people. 7 lives that ended the day the Vorynth came and haven't quite figured out they're already dead. We're ghosts preparing to haunt our killers one last time. Captain. Aria looks up from her datapad. We're ready. Transport leaves the depot in 40 minutes. If we're doing this, we need to move now. I nod. Stand. Feel the weight of the sidearm on my hip, the knife in my boot, the forged Vorynth credentials in my pocket. We've stolen a maintenance schedule, created fake work orders, fabricated an entire paper trail that says we're authorized to board a supply dropship heading for the Crown Foundry. It should work. Probably won't, but it's the best chance we'll get. Listen up, I say, and they all turn to face me. 7 pairs of eyes, some frightened, some resigned, all determined. You know the mission. Get aboard the Foundry, plant charges on the antimatter containment cores. Detonate, the Foundry dies, and the Vorynth lose their primary weapons manufacturing facility in this sector. It'll set them back months, maybe years. Won't win the war, but it'll hurt them. Make them bleed. Show them that humans don't go quietly. I pause, looking at each of them in turn. We all know we're not coming back. This is one way. But what we do today, destroying that foundry, killing their production, making them pay, that matters. That's something they can't take from us. Our choice, our defiance. Mira speaks first. We lost our world. This is how we remind them we were here. The others nod. No speeches, no grand declarations. Just acceptance. We're already dead, have been since the earth fell. This is just choosing how our bodies finally catch up with that reality. We move out into the dying light of Eridion's sun. The city around us is in ruins, half-collapsed buildings, streets torn up by Vorynth equipment, the skeletal remains of human civilization being slowly erased. In the distance, I can see one of their industrial complexes, smoke rising from stacks, the sound of machinery grinding. They're efficient about harvesting our world. In another decade, there'll be nothing left but mines and factories. In 2, probably not even that. They'll move on to the next conquest, and Eridion will be a footnote in their empire's endless expansion, unless we do something about it. The Vorynth transport depot is on the edge of the city, where they stage supplies and equipment for orbital shipments. It's heavily guarded, not because they expect resistance, but because they're methodical about security. We approach through the industrial sector, using routes Dev mapped out, staying in the shadows of massive machinery and processing plants. The sound of industry is our cover, drowning out footsteps and hushed voices. Rin's forged credentials get us past the first checkpoint. A bored Vorynth guard scans our IDs, compares them to his schedule, and waves us through. They don't see individuals when they look at humans. Just numbers, work units, resources. That's both terrible and useful. Terrible because it means we're less than animals to them. Useful because it means they don't scrutinize us closely. We board the dropship with a group of actual maintenance workers, humans being shipped up to the foundry for their shift. They look hollow. That's the only word for it. Eyes empty, movements automatic. No spark of life or hope or anything that makes someone human. They've been broken so thoroughly, they're just organic machinery now. One of them looks at me as we strap in. Young woman, maybe 20, her face bearing the scars of industrial work. For just a moment, something flickers in her eyes. Recognition. Understanding. Then it's gone, and she turns away, staring at nothing. I want to tell her we're trying to help, that we're fighting for her, for all of them. But I can't. Can't risk compromising the mission. Can't promise salvation when we're really just bringing destruction. So I stay silent, and the moment passes. The dropship launches with a lurch, engines roaring, pressing us back into our seats. Through the viewports, I watch Eridion fall away. From this height, you can see the full extent of what the Vorynth have done. Massive strip mines scar the surface. Industrial complexes sprawl like tumors. The cities are dark except for the Vorynth installations. Our world, transformed into their resource. Then we break through the atmosphere, and the Crown Foundry comes into view. God, it's massive. Pictures, surveillance footage, none of it prepared me for reality. 10 kilometers of metal and industry, suspended in orbit like a malevolent moon. Weapon ports bristle along its hull. Docking bays large enough to swallow entire ships. manufacturing sections that glow with the heat of plasma forges and antimatter reactors. This is where the Vorynth built their war machine. This is what we're trying to destroy. 7 people against a weapons factory. The math doesn't work. But mathematics hasn't mattered much since the war started. We dock without incident. The maintenance workers shuffle out, and we follow, keeping our heads down, moving with their same defeated shuffle. Inside the foundry, the air tastes of metal and ozone. The corridors are massive, designed for Vorynth proportions. They're larger than humans, averaging 2.5 meters tall, with 4 arms and exoskeletons like living armor. Intimidating by design and biology. But they bleed. I've seen it. They can be killed. That's all that matters. Arya leads us through the designated routes, following Ryn's mapped pathways. We pass through processing areas where humans sort raw materials under Vorynth supervision. Through assembly lines where they construct weapon components with precision born of punishment. Through living quarters where workers sleep in cells barely large enough to lie down. Thousands of people, all trapped, all broken, all serving the empire that destroyed their species. The guilt is crushing. We're here to destroy this place, which means we're here to kill everyone aboard. The Vorynth guards, yes, but also these workers, these prisoners, our own people. Because there's no way to evacuate them, no way to save them, and if we don't destroy the foundry, they'll spend the rest of their short, brutal lives building weapons to conquer more worlds, enslave more species, perpetuate more suffering. Sometimes there are no good choices, just terrible ones and worse ones. We reach the reactor level without being challenged. Ryn's credentials hold up, Dev's knowledge of industrial systems guides us through the maze of corridors, and Arya's tactical planning keeps us away from patrol routes. We're ghosts in their machine, invisible until we want to be seen. The antimatter containment cores are behind blast doors 3 meters thick. Jace studies them, running calculations, checking his demolition charges. I can breach this, he says quietly, but the moment I do, alarms will trigger. We'll have maybe 5 minutes before the security lockdown. Then we move fast, I say. Jace, breach the doors. Dev, Ryn, helps him plant charges on the cores. Mira, Kael, Arya, defensive positions. Hold them off while we work. Once the charges are set, we fall back to the docking bay, steal a ship, and detonate remotely. It's a good plan. Clean. Professional. It might even work if we were lucky. We're not lucky. Jace places his breaching charge on the blast door. Set the timer. We all take cover around the corner. The explosion is muffled but powerful, a deep boom that reverberates through the metal floors. Alarms start immediately, wailing sirens and flashing lights. Lockdown protocols engage. Blast doors begin closing throughout the facility. Go, I shout, and we move. Through the smoking gap in the blast door into the reactor chamber. It's vast, cathedral-sized, filled with the hum of antimatter containment fields. 6 cores, each one glowing with barely restrained annihilation. Jace, Dev, and Ryn start placing charges, working with desperate speed. Mira, Kael, and Arya take positions at the entrance. Arya checks her rifle. Contact in 30 seconds, multiple Vorynth security teams converging. I draw my sidearm, position myself beside Mira. Hold them as long as you can. They come around the corner like a wall of armored fury. Vorynth soldiers, each one massive and equipped with plasma weapons that can cut through steel. Mira opens fire first, controlled bursts that find weak points in their armor. One goes down, then another, but there are too many, and they're advancing with the confidence of beings who know they own this space. Plasma fire fills the corridor, superheated bolts that leave scorch marks on the walls and fill the air with the smell of ozone and burning metal. Kyle throws a grenade, one of Jace's makeshift explosives, and the blast takes out 3 Vorynth in a shower of shrapnel and flame. But more are coming. always more. "How long?" I shout over the weapon's fire. 3 minutes, Jace calls back. "I need 3 minutes." Arya drops to one knee, firing in precise patterns, each shot finding a target. She's magnificent in her element, a soldier doing what she was trained for. But there's plasma fire coming from multiple angles now. The Vorynth are coordinating, flanking, using their numbers and firepower to overwhelm our position. Kyle takes a hit. The plasma bolt catches him in the shoulder, burning through armor and flesh. He doesn't scream, just grunts, stumbles, keeps firing. "I'm good," he says through clenched teeth. "Still in this." But he's not good. I can see the wound, see how his right arm hangs useless. He switches his rifle to his left hand, keeps firing, but his rate of fire drops. The Vorynth senses weakness, presses harder. 2 minutes, Dev shouts. Mira throws herself flat as a volley of plasma fire cuts the air where she'd been standing. She rolls, comes up firing, drops 2 more Vorynth. But there are dozens now, filling the corridor, advancing behind portable shields. We're being overrun. "Fall back," Arya orders. "Defensive line at the reactor entrance." We retreat into the reactor chamber, taking positions behind containment equipment and support pillars. The Vorynth follow, but the narrower entrance forces them to bunch up, limiting their numerical advantage. We make them pay for every meter, every second. Kyle is bleeding badly now, his fire slowing. Mira's rifle is overheating, smoke rising from the barrel. Arya is methodical as ever, but I can see fatigue in her movements. 1 minute, Rin calls out. Kyle stands from cover. I see it happening, try to shout a warning, but he's already moving. He charges the Vorynth line, firing his rifle one-handed, impossible and magnificent. He makes it 3 steps before plasma fire cuts him down. But those 3 steps buy us time, force the Vorynth to focus on him and split their attention. He dies on his feet, still firing, still fighting, dies as he lived, refusing to surrender. "Charges set," Jace yells. "I'm arming the detonators." The Vorynth rush to the entrance. Mira meets them with sustained fire, her rifle screaming, cutting through armor and flesh. She drops 5 before a plasma bolt hits her in the chest. The impact throws her back, and she doesn't get up. I see her hand twitch once, reaching for something. A photo she kept in her pocket maybe, or just grasping at life as it leaves. Then she's still. 30 seconds to detonation, Jace shouts. Arya stands, providing covering fire while Dev and Rin sprint for the exit. "Go! Get to the dropship." But the lockdown has sealed the corridors. Blast doors closed, emergency protocols engaged. We're trapped in the reactor chamber with a dozen Vorynth soldiers and less than 30 seconds before the charges detonate. "There's no exit," Dev calls out. "We're locked in." The realization settles over us like a weight. We're not getting out. Never were, really. The plan, the escape route, the hope we might survive. All of it was just comforting lies we told ourselves. This was always one way. 20 seconds, Jace says quietly. Arya keeps firing, keeps killing, keeps buying us time we no longer need. A plasma bolt catches her in the leg. She drops to one knee, switches to her sidearm, keeps shooting. "Make it count," she says, blood on her teeth. "Make it hurt them." Jace pulls out a small recording device, hands it to me. "Get this out. Someone needs to know we were here." 10 seconds, Dev says. I take the recorder, hit record, speak over the sounds of weapons fire and dying. "This is Captain Tarek Solen, Ember Squad. We destroyed the Crown Foundry, hurt the Vorynth, made them pay. If this reaches anyone, human or otherwise, remember we fought back. Remember we never surrendered. Remember." The charges detonate. The antimatter containment fails instantly. 6 cores worth of matter and antimatter meeting, annihilating, releasing energy on a scale that turns physics into something violent and beautiful. The blast wave expands at near light speed, vaporizing everything in its path. Vorynth soldiers, human prisoners, metal and machinery, and all evidence that any of us existed. I don't feel pain. The end is too fast for that. One moment I'm standing, recording, defiant. Next, I'm energy and light and nothing at all. The Crown Foundry breaks apart. 10 kilometers of weapons manufacturing facility tearing itself into pieces, the explosion propagating through every section, every corridor, every workspace. Structural supports fail. Containment systems rupture. The orbital ring that connected the foundry to other stations catches fire, a chain reaction spreading destruction. And below, on Eridion's surface, thousands of enslaved humans stop their work and look up. Watch as the sky burns. Watch as humanity's defiance writes itself in fire across the heavens. The Vorynth response is immediate and brutal. Emergency broadcasts across all occupied worlds. Footage of the destruction, the death toll, the economic impact. They frame it as terrorism, barbarism, proof that humans are too dangerous to be allowed autonomy. They increase security, tighten restrictions, execute suspected resistance sympathizers by the hundreds. But they can't control what people whisper in the dark, can't stop the stories that spread through labor camps and factories and slave quarters. Stories about Ember Squad, about 7 humans who fought back, who hurt the Empire, who burned the sky. In a processing facility on Eridion's northern continent, a young woman, the same one who looked at me in the dropship, hears the story. Hears about the foundry, about the sacrifice, about humanity refusing to die quietly. Something stirs in her chest, something that had been dormant, crushed, forgotten. Hope, number, something harder than hope, something the Vorynth can't kill. Purpose. She returns to work, but she's changed. The hollowness is gone. She starts noticing others like her, people who heard the stories, who remember what it means to be human. They don't speak of resistance, don't plan or plot or organize. Not yet, but they remember. And memory, in a place designed to erase identity, is its own form of rebellion. The Vorynth rebuilt the foundry. It takes 3 years and massive resource investment, but they rebuild it, more heavily defended this time, more secure, more isolated from the human workforce. They learn from their mistakes, adapt their systems, ensure such sabotage can never happen again. But they can't rebuild what the Ember Squad really destroyed. Can't restore the sense of invulnerability, the certainty that humans were broken beyond resistance, the comfort of absolute control. 7 people, 7 dead people, proved that humans could still fight, could still hurt them, could still choose defiance over survival. And that changes everything. 5 years after the Crown Foundry's destruction, resistance cells have emerged on 12 Vorynth-occupied worlds. They're small, scattered, brutally suppressed whenever discovered. But they exist, and they all trace their inspiration back to the same moment, when Ember Squad burned the sky. The Vorynth classifies it as an ongoing security concern, increase military presence on occupied worlds, deploy additional surveillance, execute suspects. But the resistance grows anyway, spreading like embers catching in dry grass. Because Ember Squad proved something that no amount of Vorynth propaganda could erase. Humans would rather die fighting than live broken, would rather be ashes than accept slavery, would rather burn everything, including themselves, than surrender. That's not strategic thinking, it's not logical, it's not even particularly smart, but it's human. And it's terrifying. 10 years later, there's a memorial on what's left of Eridion. Not official, the Vorynth would never allow that. Just a piece of scorched metal from the foundry's wreckage, pulled from orbit and hidden in the ruins of the old capital. Someone etched 7 names into it. Captain Tarek Solen, Lieutenant Aria Vasquez, Sergeant Kyle Voss, Corporal Mira Chen, Private Jace Okoye, Tech Specialist Rin Park, Private First Class Dev Anand. Below the names, one line, They fought back. People come to see it when they can, when patrols aren't watching. Touch the names, remember, then return to their work, their slavery, their broken lives. But they're different for having come. Remembering makes them different. The young woman, now not so young, bearing scars from a decade of labor, brings her daughter to the memorial. The girl is 5, born into slavery, knows nothing but Vorynth rule. The mother kneels beside her, touches the scorched metal, and speaks softly. These people died so we'd remember who we are. Remember that we don't have to accept this. Remember that humans fight back. The daughter looks up at the sky, at the orbital stations that replaced the Crown Foundry. Did they win? The mother considers this. Look at the names, at the words etched below them, at her daughter's curious eyes. No, she says honestly, they didn't win. They died. We're still slaves. The Vorynth are still here. Then why did they do it? The mother touches her daughter's face, gentle and sad and fierce all at once. Because some things are worth doing even when you can't win. Because revenge isn't about victory, it's about refusing to die quietly, because they wanted the galaxy to remember that humans never surrender, that we fight back. She stands, takes her daughter's hand, and begins walking back to the labor camp. But she's smiling now, bitter and painful, but a smile nonetheless. Because the Ember Squad didn't save humanity, didn't free the slaves or defeat the Empire or change the fundamental reality of occupation, but they gave something just as important. They gave proof that resistance was possible, that humans could still hurt their oppressors. That defiance, even suicidal defiance, was a choice still available, and that mattered. Across occupied space, in labor camps and factories and slave quarters, humans whisper the same words. Tell the same story, remember the same names. Ember Squad becomes myth, legend, proof that humanity isn't finished, that even in the darkest occupation, even facing impossible odds, even knowing they'll lose, humans will fight back. The Vorynth try to suppress the story, execute those caught spreading it, classify it as dangerous propaganda. But you can't kill an idea once it's taken root. Can't execute hope into submission, can't build walls high enough to contain the human capacity for defiance. Ember Squad died in fire and antimatter and violence, but their death meant something, changed something, proved something that the galaxy had forgotten, that humans, broken and enslaved and seemingly defeated, would never stop fighting back. That's not victory. Victory would be freedom, peace, the Vorynth defeated and humanity restored. This is something smaller and stranger and more enduring. This is the knowledge that even in defeat, even in death, even in the complete destruction of everything you fought for, you can still make your enemies remember you. You can still make them pay. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's all revenge ever is, not winning, but refusing to lose quietly. Not victory, but the refusal to surrender. Not changing the outcome, but making sure your enemies never forget what it cost them. The Crown Foundry burned. 7 people died. Thousands more died with them. The Vorynth rebuilt, adapted, and continued their conquest. By every practical measure, Ember Squad failed. But across the occupied worlds, in the dark places where humans gather and remember, 7 names are whispered with reverence. 7 people who proved that humanity wasn't finished, who showed that even the broken can choose to be dangerous, who reminded the galaxy what we've always been, fragile, mortal, outmatched, and absolutely, terrifyingly unwilling to go quietly into extinction. They fought back against the alien empire, and in fighting back, in choosing death over submission, they gave humanity something it desperately needed. Proof that resistance was still possible, that defiance still mattered, that we could still hurt those who tried to break us. That's the legacy of Ember Squad. Not victory, not salvation, just the stubborn, suicidal, beautiful refusal to die quietly. And sometimes, that's enough.